What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchet REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. So excited about this video. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, all right? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
And the future of the subculture called raggare.
Classics putting
in
up.
1984, a car cruising event called Power Meet started in the town of Västerås in Sweden. Thousands and later tens of thousands of people flocked to Västerås to show off their old American cars and to get drunk. Power Meet was actually the continuation of an event that started in 1978, but ever since 1984, it was held annually in Västerås. At first, the local municipality was a co-arranger of the event, but things changed in the beginning of the 2000s. The number of visitors exploded, and the number of complaints against the car meet exploded as well. This is a very family-friendly event, but raggare isn't always known for being calm and quiet.
Right.
Quite the opposite, actually. The municipality pulled out of the event, and they started to impose stricter and stricter requirements on the arranger of Power Meet, a man called Kjell Gustafsson. Kjell Gustafsson was also robbed of a large sum of money, more than 1 million Swedish krona, when he was transporting money from Power Meet 2016. After that, Kjell Gustafsson shut down Power Meet in Västerås, and that made many people unhappy. This was the start of a conflict between Power Meet and what would become Västerås Summer Meet.
Ooh. Okay, so I know that for a fact. Let's look at it from this perspective. Back in the day, whenever they was doing haircuts, you know, for me, from what I remember, it went from $5 to like $10. But now we have so much more technology, so much more tools, so much more accessory that people use during haircuts. They bumped it up to like $50 now.
Right.
Imagine what this man has to go through whenever he first started the car meet, and then everybody was there. You know, it was a little quiet. Everybody was enjoying it. And then it bumped up to this enormous amount of revenue that he got invested into it, and people put into a show. Yeah, I would have been hurt too. I would have been hurt too. The conflict about it, yeah, 1000%. And he got robbed. Oh,
child, please listen.
This
is cool because I think it was earlier this year, they just lifted the law, like the old law expired or something like that, where they can cruise now in California. So that's cool. Look at that, y'all. Where our Californians at?
The inside is crazy. You got the peppermint seats.
A man called Claes Brink decided that wasn't going to be the end of Power Meet. He announced that there would be an event in Västerås in 2017. This led to a heated discussion between Kjell and Claes, and Kjell pointed out that he owned the trademark to Power Meet, so Claes could expect a letter from his lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, I heard something like that before. I mean, that sounds really familiar. When you got something popping and people try to take the name of it and then try to recreate it and say, I'm going to be the new face of it. Oh, no. I mean, he got to understand, I don't know how long he actually took from, not doing the Power Meet again for people to say, I'm going to try to take over and doing it. But you got to give that man grace. He lost a lot of money. It's business. I mean, he was robbed, though. So it can't be business, But, he had to give the guy grace for this one.
Yeah, about a year.
Yeah, he had to give grace for that. That's a lot of revenue he had to lose.
I mean, just name it something else and add different features. Make it your own.
I feel like anybody would not like that, though.
I mean,
it wouldn't be the same
if
they wanted to continue it, but you kind of like you're trying to mirror what was, and it's not going to be the same because it's going to have some cracks in your mirror.
Well, let's see what happens.
All right.
Also criticized Claes for being too inexperienced and that he wouldn't be able to handle such a massive event. There was a large debate about what would happen in 2017. Would Claes arrange a new car meetup, or would Kjell arrange Power Meet in Västerås after all? In the end, Claes Brink's new event ended up being called Västerås Summer Meet, and Kjell Gustafsson moved Power Meet to the town of Lidköping. And both of these events have coexisted ever since then. Power Meet in Lidköping is sometimes called the biggest car meetup in the world, with more than 20,000 cars. Västerås summer meet is pretty new in comparison, and it did get a rocky start, but it still attracts around 100,000 visitors. There's also a lot of other car meetups in Sweden. American Car Show in Norrtälje and Classic Car Week in Rättvik, for example. And many more. Some of the meetups are more aimed at collectors, and some are aimed at specific brands or models. And some are aimed at people who want to show off their cars while playing misogynic music, get drunk, and harass women. You see, raggare is a bit of a weird subculture. It can refer to very serious collectors of classic cars, and it can also refer to the Swedish equivalent of hillbillies. Let's dive a bit more into the history of raggare.
Crazy.
Wait, the hillbillies.
In the post-World War II era, the Marshall Plan was doing wonders for Europe. The US helped Europe rebuild economically, and as a consequence there was a lot of American influence on European countries, including Sweden. The US was seen as a place of hope, dreams, and forward thinking, and young people in Sweden happily adopted American culture. That included clothes, cars, music, and a lot more. The problem is that Sweden was quite a conservative country in the 1950s, and these young people who imported the greaser lifestyle from the US were diametrically opposed.
Yo, I mean, next to the flag is crazy.
I mean, I was enjoying it. I hope y'all didn't adopt that.
Right, yeah.
Sure. Come
Yeah.
on. Done messed up my food. I mean, I was like, oh yeah, cool.
I mean, I was digesting this video perfectly, bro. Watching the calls, listening to the story, and then he just had the scars real quick with a...
I saw Betty Boop. I saw Elvis.
It was out there.
Sure.
It was out there. The cherry red car seats. I mean, everything.
Opposed to Swedish values. These Swedish
cherry
greasers
red paint
became
job.
known as raggare. Ragg is the Swedish word for bristle, but it's also slang for picking up girls. Some believe that raggare got their name because of their rugged appearance, and some believe it's because they aggressively chased women in the same manner as American greasers. Raggare drank a lot of booze, they fought, and they had a lot of random sex. Something that's very common these days, but back then it was quite anti-Swedish. They didn't want these loud and obnoxious kids around their small Swedish towns. And that's a sentiment that lived on past the 1950s. Raggare became synonymous with rough around the edges people who drink too much and behave indecently. It's a
So I see car strollers, but like, are children not like, I'm talking about, let's say 5-year-olds, like...
Mm-hmm. He say family friendly.
He says family friendly, but I don't know, the storyline was just basically saying how they didn't want the kids there because they're loud.
Yeah,
you know?
and they use it as a spot to pick up women.
Culture that started out extremely modern. They imported the latest American trends and the latest American cars. And then they sort of remained in that mindset with the same culture and the same cars. And that culture might have been extremely forward-thinking and modern in the 1950s, but as Sweden became more and more progressive, it didn't really keep up. I'm not a connoisseur when it comes to American cars, or any cars at all actually, but the people at this event certainly are. I know that Chevrolet is a classic brand though, and has some of the most popular cars. And there's also a lot of Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles and Cadillacs. And of course, you can't forget about Ford. In the 1990s, there was a Swedish TV show called Byhåla, Swedish for small town, that featured two raggare called Ronny och Ragge. They had a really crappy Ford that they pronounced Ford. That show was a semi-affectionate look at the raggar culture, as it had evolved from the 1950s greaser style to the raggare of the 1980s and 90s. Gone were the 1950s hairstyles and leather jackets, and instead you found a lot of blue jeans and slightly more modern American cars. It was still all American though. Even though raggare changed over time, it seems like the American connection was quite important.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that America made such a huge influence. They influence a lot of people, a lot of different locations. Yeah. So I didn't want to say it, but it would give me Beavis and Butthead.
Me too.
Okay,
that's
so you waited for me to say it?
Too.
Okay, so y'all probably was thinking it too. I'm just the one who said what everybody's thinking. Okay, bet.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But I saw the hillbilly aesthetic of what he was saying.
All them denim jeans.
Ronny and Ragge was one people's introduction to raggare, and they also helped popularize the subculture. By that time, raggare had been in Sweden for more than 30 years, and the definition of the word had started to change. These days, raggare can refer to car enthusiasts who strictly deal with old American cars. But it can also refer to people who like to drink and fight and burn rubber out in the Swedish countryside. Some areas of Sweden are more populated by raggare than others, like Värmland, Dalarna, and Hälsingland, for example. And all of those places are pretty rural. That's where people tinker with old cars, where they meet and hang out, and where this modern take on the subculture is especially strong. Raggare often listen to rockabilly and music from the 1950s, but the music can also be more modern. Epadunk is a music genre that became popular in Sweden around 2020, and the music features heavy bass and lyrics about sex and alcohol. Which all modern music does, come to think of it, but these songs are a lot more explicit. And speaking of music, there's someone in particular that I need to mention when talking about raggare and music. You can't really talk about Swedish raggare without talking about Errol Norstedt, better known as Eddie Meduza. Eddie Meduza was a composer who did rockabilly songs and a lot more. His songs were most of the time obscene and humorous, but also political, and sometimes strangely poetic. He's most famous for his own songs, but he also wrote songs for other pop bands in Sweden. Eddie Meduza died in 2002 at the age of 53, but his songs are still played today. Who hasn't heard classic songs like Volvo, Drunkeball, and Mera Brännvin? These songs portray such themes as drinking, masturbating, and being overtaken by a bloody Volvo when driving in your classic American car.
Okay.
One of his songs is called Punkjävlar, Bloody Punks, because in Sweden, punks and raggare are traditional enemies, which can also be illustrated by the Swedish punk band Rude Kids, who made a song called Raggare is a bunch of eloquence like that pretty much sums up many people's opinion about raggare.
Okay, that was a lot to take in.
I don't know if I painted a fair picture of raggare or not, because it's a pretty complex subculture. It's full of love for American cars and American culture, but it's also filled with a lot of anti-establishment themes. It's rooted in the 1950s, but it's also adopted and adapted modern trends. It's beloved by some and hated and ridiculed by others. I'm sure that, just like with any other subculture, it's full of many different types of people. People who care deeply about the 50s, and people who don't care about history at all and just want to look forward instead. People who care deeply about the community, and some people who just want to drink and fight. But I suspect that one thing that's common for all the raggare is the love of freedom. Freedom from society, and freedom to live their lives just the way they want. That's probably something that was true for raggare back in the 1950s, just as it's true for raggare today. And there you have it. That was a quick look at Västerås summer meat and the Swedish subculture called raggare.
Alright, we're gonna stop right there, man. You guys know what to do. Make sure y'all check his channel out. He didn't mention anything about auctioning cars there, but I do know for sure that they're probably talking money when it comes to these vehicles. Especially when they're classics. Classics are like, old baseball cards. They're gonna sell eventually for a lot of money, so I can definitely hear them talking money when it comes to the vehicles, Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is a different side of Sweden that we haven't seen before, besides the Vikings. Like, I think this was one of our first times really exploring culture.
Yeah.
Sweden.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to know just how much America has influenced y'all with that. I wasn't expecting that one. Cruising? What?
Yeah. I feel that.
All right, y'all. Let us know if you go here. If you like this. If you're a part of this culture. Let us know. All right. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.